Playing the chords of a tune is one of the most used skills when improvising in jazz. You really want to get this into your playing because this is one of the biggest things in jazz. Further, when you start practicing your arpeggios, you really get a deep dive into the technical aspects of your instrument. But you really need to push the chords and the arpeggios further than your technical level and get this into the music you're playing. Practicing the chords and the arpeggios of a tune will get you further on all levels of your playing. Technical skills, music theory, and adding inspired ideas to your playing. You need this as a second nature in your playing, and there are tons of ways to practice these chords. Start at the beginning and move towards advanced. Here I'm playing on Take the A Train. On most tunes you can use the most simple form of the chords, the 4-note chord going up. What I would advise you to is take them both up and down on all the tunes you know in the most simple form. 4-note chords from the root to the 7th. Getting into this technical aspect, go up the scale, play all the chords in the scale. But jazz music is nothing without added exciting rhythm to it. So just playing the arpeggios up in the scale is not gonna cut it. But adding a very musical, rhythmical context to it makes it much more interesting. Begin immediately by moving around the chords in rhythm. This will add so much more to your music. I'm starting on the 2, on the 1 hand, the 4 hand, and the 3. Definitely add this concept to your scales, adding rhythm to the exercises where you're going up the chords in the scales too. I try to switch them in time, getting used to this syncopated form of playing. Just playing chords up the scale, it starts to sound funky. And as per usual, I have added lots of extra material, chords and arpeggios. Lots of licks examples in the full lesson transcription on my Patreon. Check the Patreon on the first tier where you can download all my lesson transcriptions and all the great PDFs. Must is of course adding the opposite pattern, descending. I'm again adding it into the rhythm. On the Patreon there'll be different forms of this. You'll need to expand your 7th chords to the 9 chords to get deeper into the jazz sound. The 9th has this wonderful open sound. With more notes, it also gives us the possibility to add bigger runs. You clearly see what it does when you add rhythm to a line on Take the A Train. Here it's 9 arpeggios up and down. I've added these patterns to a scale exercise here. Again, I'm switching between playing music and scale exercises. When you make the switch between practicing music and practicing technique, you'll get this very short link from technique to music to technique, and you'll actually start playing your technique on a very much higher musical level. The scale exercises are meant to be a focus point for your fingers and your breathing to get this really right. Whereas playing new material and new tunes is much more of a creative process, where you'll have to maneuver between technique and creativity, where you'll have to fit newly learned material and newly learned techniques into a musical context. If you find it challenging how to work out these licks or lines or exercises, I really advise you to check this on Patreon. On the first tier, you can download the full PDF with all the exercises and all the material. The 9th chords give a new dimension to both the arpeggio but also the theoretical aspect of this. In this example, I play mostly the upper structures of the chords. Which contains the 9, by leaving out the root, which the bass player of course plays, you get a much more lighter and open sound. put these two exercises together so you can see that I'm talking about the same chord, but I play actually different arpeggios on this. I play the 7th chord from the root and I play the 7th chord from the 3rd, getting the 9th in there. Another great tool in your arpeggio playing is the chromatic approach note before an arpeggio. Both of these examples are ascending, but you should definitely play both descending too. The rule is the same, ascending and descending. Put the chromatic half step a half note under the first note of your arpeggio. What I mentioned before, remember to change between musical context and exercises. The musical context is always challenging your creativity into putting your technical exercises into a musical context. This is why it's so important not to only practice the technique, you need to play music. To help get your technical and your creative flow going, I have added both a lot of technical exercises and a lot of musical licks, where I've added the technical exercise to the licks. Grab and go. Download the ones on first tier in all 12 keys. I've made this exercise, adding the chromatic half step before the 7th of all the chords in the scale. A fun thing about this exercise is that you get groupings of 5 when you play it. A very funny thing to use in a 4/4 bar. When you want to dig further in the material about arpeggios, I have Chris Potter here on one side. He will take you into a more advanced side of this. I have 8 great chord patterns here on the other side, which take you to a more basic level, which you definitely have to know. The Patreon is here and the newsletter, you can get all the good stuff. Any questions, put it in the comments below. I would love to answer your questions. Like and subscribe, you know where to find it. All the links are below in the description. Play music, have fun.